Welcome to the Real Stories channel. Come discover amazing stories. When this little one was born, his parents, Selina and Matthias, were so shocked by his appearance that they felt they couldn't take care of him, so they gave up on the child. But decades later, fate made them meet him again. Selina and Matthias were childhood friends. The young people's parents weren't well off financially and couldn't afford college for them. After they graduated from high school, Selina got a job at a restaurant while Matthias worked at a factory. They earned little, but they had to make do as they could. The couple thought a lot about the future and saved a lot. When they collected enough, they got married and started thinking about starting a family. The two were very beautiful and were sure they would have beautiful children who would walk down the catwalks. But sometimes, life doesn't give us what we want, and that's exactly what happened to this couple. A few months after they were married, Selina became pregnant. On an examination, it was revealed that she was pregnant with a boy. Matthew was thrilled to be a boy and believed the boy would look like him. The future father made all the necessary preparations, worked twice as hard and bought all the necessary things for the baby. He also promised Selina that when the baby was 2 years old, they would move to a bigger apartment. Sadly, when the baby was born, that emotion faded and was replaced by doubt, regret, and fear. Selina and Matthias had weekly exams. All the results showed that the boy was in perfect health during the pregnancy. Selina was in good health. But that was until she went into labor. One morning, the contractions started suddenly and Selina was not prepared, as the delivery was due 3 weeks later and they had not made the necessary preparations. Anyway, Matthias quickly rushed Selina to the hospital. Once there, she was taken to the delivery room. The contractions were so painful that Selina thought she was going to faint. 15 minutes later, the doctors pulled out the baby, and as soon as they laid eyes on him, they were stunned. The boy, later named Brian, was born with a hunchback. In addition, he also had excess hair on his skin because of a condition called hypertrichosis. When Selina and Matthias saw their baby, neither of them could hold back the tears. They didn't feel connected to him, and it wasn't until an hour later that they finally got up the courage to carry him. Matthew was furious and stormed into the doctor's office in a rage. "You said the child is in perfect health. So why is he like this?" he asked the doctor angrily. The doctors apologized and said they didn't notice anything different in the exams. Afterwards, he told the devastated parents that surgery might ease their baby's problems. Unfortunately, the cost of the operation was very expensive, and the couple could not afford it. Furthermore, the doctor also told them that the boy would need extra care and attention. A few weeks later, the couple went home with Brian. Unfortunately, the boy was often sick and the parents often went to the hospital. One night, the couple had a big argument. "It's so hard to take care of Brian. We don't even have the money for surgery. We won't be able to give him the kind of life he deserves. We have to give him up," Matthias told his wife. Since Matthias wasn't earning enough money, he couldn't quit his job to take care of Brian, who needed round-the-clock attention. The couple asked their parents to help take care of the boy, but none of them responded. "What will people say if they see me with a boy that looks like that? Haven't you thought about the fact that maybe the child isn't yours? Maybe your wife has cheated on you with some other man," said Matthias' mother. Matthias told him that the couple was aware that they needed to send the boy to an orphanage. They felt that they were abandoning their child, but they were sure that they would not be able to take care of him. They had two options: let the boy go and have a better life, or choose him and watch him suffer. The couple opted for the first option. The necessary preparations were made, and in due time, Matthias and Selina said goodbye to their son and walked out of his life for good. Brian grew up in the orphanage and became a well-mannered, loving, and healthy boy. He was so sweet that all the staff quickly fell in love with him. Due to his state of health, the hump continued to increase. His body hair was extending more and more, including on his face. Unfortunately, everyone who went to the orphanage didn't want to adopt him because of his physical appearance, which worried the orphanage staff, who feared that no one would ever give him a chance. However, when Brian was 3 years old, a couple named Marta and Laura, who were in their late 40s, were thinking of adopting a child, so they went to the orphanage. This couple got married and for 20 years they tried to have children, but unfortunately they couldn't. They had all the money in the world, but they weren't complete yet. When they went to the orphanage, the staff took them to the children's classroom, and when they entered, Marta and Brian exchanged glances with each other immediately. At this time, the boy smiled at Marta and waved his hands at her. Marta had been sad for a long time, and the boy's smile healed her soul. She felt an instant strong connection with him. Marta's husband was also very fond of Brian and felt a strong desire to make him happy. Therefore, the couple agreed to adopt the boy. The adoption process was quick, and a few weeks later, Brian moved into the couple's mansion and they welcomed him with lots of love and care. The boy has brought so much happiness into my life that I can't believe anyone would give up such a sweet soul. I'm glad we gave him a chance, Lauro told his wife. A few months later, the couple paid for surgery to remove Brian's hump. Unfortunately, there was no cure for the excess body hair. Although Brian received a lot of love from his parents, he was bullied at school. One day, he got tired and burst into tears. All the kids at school hate me, they make fun of me, they call me a werewolf, Brian told his mother. Don't let their words get to you. Whenever they make fun of you, tell them you're perfect and unique, replied Marta. It's not true, I'm not perfect. I want to look like the other kids, I want them to stop laughing at me, said Brian, crying some more. The boy put up with the bullying for a long time, and Marta was devastated because she knew that her classmates' words were finally getting through to him. She couldn't find words to comfort him, so she just hugged him tightly and let him cry into her shoulder. The next morning, as Brian was getting ready for school, an idea occurred to Marta. She smiled happily, hugged the boy and said, if your colleagues make fun of you, tell them that you will become a doctor and find a cure for your condition. Brian fell in love with the idea of being a doctor right away. Since then, whenever his peers made fun of him, he would say, just wait, I'll find a cure soon. At this moment, this boy would never have imagined that his dream would lead him to his biological parents. Brian was eventually admitted to college, studied medicine, and specialized in surgery. Sadly, he saw that there was no cure for his condition, but he didn't let that bother him after graduating. Brian found work in an operating theater and, knowing how to save lives, 5 years later he was in his office when he got a call from a man who had been in an accident and needed emergency surgery. Scans showed the man had a clot in his brain and Brian was asked to operate on him. He quickly donned his scrubs and rushed into the operating room. Little did he know he was about to receive the biggest shock of his life. As soon as Brian saw his patient, he froze. It was like he was looking at himself in a mirror. They had a perfect resemblance, with the same eyes, nose, and facial structure. Something very strange for the young man, as he thought, why do I look so much like this stranger? However, he pushed his thoughts away and began the surgery. 4 hours later, the surgery was over and it was a success. Afterwards, Brian left to inform the man's family that the surgery was successful. When he left the room, he saw a woman waiting for her patient. She was old enough to be his mother. As soon as she saw Brian, she started shaking and crying. Brian approached the woman and told her that the surgery was successful, but even so, she continued to cry. As Brian was about to leave, the woman pulled him back and said, I'm sorry for crying. You remind me of my son. He was born hunchbacked and had excess hair, just like you. I'm so glad your parents they gave up on you despite your condition. You became a successful doctor. After that, she told Brian that she and her husband had given up on their son because they couldn't take care of him. Every day, we miss him since we left him. We tried to have more children, but our efforts were in vain. It seems that the universe punished us for our sins, said the woman. She started to shake and ran away. Her heart was pounding. It was him, the child the woman was referring to. When Brian got home, he told his parents everything. The next day he went with Marta to the orphanage and the records confirmed that his suspicion was correct. The sick man and woman were actually his biological parents. "If you want him to know about you, that's fine," Marta told Brian as the young man cried on her shoulder. The next day, Brian went to the room where Matthias was recovering. Selina was also in the room. The young doctor gave the couple a smile and they had a light conversation. "Please be strong wherever your son is. I want you to know that he has forgiven you and understands why you gave up on him," Brian said, holding back tears. Then he hugged the couple and left the room. Brian thought it best not to reveal his identity to his birth parents. He didn't want to reopen old wounds. Everyone has a choice and they made theirs. "I'm glad I met you, but you and Dad mean the whole world to me. Let's forget about the past and focus on the present and the future. Thank you for adopting me when no one else wanted me," Brian told Marta later that day. So what did you think of Brian's decision? Let me know in the comments and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more fascinating stories.